Hi, welcome to the GenAI Mastery course. The goal of this course is to take you from a beginner GenAI user to an expert GenAI user in 7 sessions. My name is Lucky from GenDucate, and I will be your trainer in this course. Let's dive in. Having worked with transcript, now we're looking at inbox. We've all been involved with that, but let's just focus on what we are doing here. We are really focused on discourse personalization. Like I said at the start, it's trying to create someone's communication style using generative AI. The output and the content that generative AI creates is aligned with someone's communication styles. And we'll talk about different areas of communication, the tones, the formality, and so on. We have a scenario, we're using an inbox as a scenario, 20 unread messages regarding a technical glitch. 20 unread messages, be mindful of the fact that one of the message might have thread. It's not just simple single messages. That means there's a lot on there. One thread might be 12 different messages. And another part of the glitch, another thread starts. You see, so you have all of that. But you need a status update for the board of directors, and you might be running out of time. And you want it to be personalized, calm, authoritative, technical. So you bring in those characteristics that I was talking about just now using generative AI. If you wanted to do that, you have to go through the 20 emails and through the different parts of the thread. So you look the first one, look at the different thread, and in short, you have to make notes before you get to the 20th email. But then with generative AI, it takes minutes. But how not to do it as usual? You get the emails, you give it to generative AI and say, write an update for the board based on these emails. Disaster. Update about what? Because there's a lot in the emails. You will get the robotic draft, definitely 100%. Technical jargon and different characteristics that you don't want, that doesn't even reflect who you are. That would make it clear that you use generative AI. So how to do it, how to personalize it. The first one is the audience filter. Executive summary, because of the audience, what would be suitable? This is the second time we're using an audience to prompt. Sometimes you prompt with the audience, you look at the audience, what would they want? Remember what we did a prompt, the first bullet point. Now this is a different audience. The BLUF is the common one. You start with the main point. BLUF is like you're starting with the main point, or you start with a conclusion. So either the main point or the conclusion or the recommendation. You put them in bullet point. You start from the end. That's why it says bottom line up before adding the other information or the other details. Generative AI, they like formats, they like frameworks, they like structures. If you know structures and frameworks that are well known, you give it to them and they'll do an excellent job of it, which is what we're doing with the BLUF here. And the second one is the voice calibration. Now you're aligning the message to that person's voice. If they are calm or direct, so what is their tone? How do they normally speak? How do they normally write their message? A good thing here is that you only need, if you're the one creating it for yourself, you need examples. Or if you've done it before, you need what the tone, your characteristics is called, like hey, it says calm. So if your characteristics, how you write a message is calm and direct, you know that, then you don't need the example, you just tell GenAI, calm, direct. If you're not sure, you get a few messages and ask generative AI to tell you your tone and your voice characteristics. It will give you the list specifically. Then you can use those. Now it's the things that you normally don't do. Maybe because of your role, you don't use technical words, you don't use buzzwords and all of that. And then how you approach, you focus on what's happening and how do we resolve it. Current status, path to resolution. So here, step 2, you're really personalizing the content. But you need to know this about yourself. But if you don't, you use examples and you get it from generative AI and you can then use that. So you do it in different steps. Step 3, it might be needed, it might not be needed. It depends on the content you're using. If it's a meeting where there was a lot of emotions, rising and people trying to defend things, which happens, then you probably need that. And then you might be working with teams where this happens a lot. But your content might be different. It might not be about defensive language, or it might be something completely different. So using this structure, this approach, these steps, then that comes into your own step 3. It might not be shifting blame, It might be a case of avoiding the task or avoiding the project or avoiding the duty. So that one is common also. So that is not shifting blame to engineering team. It might be another thing that happens within the teams. You put that into your prompt. And the last step, it's the responsible GenAI check. So we've given an example here, like fixing data and all of that, that shouldn't be happening. But if you have to check if generative AI has done that, obviously, to make it responsible. But having said that, let's practice this. So as usual, we'll start with how not to do it. The beginning approach. It says to write an update on the board based on these images. So I'll just copy the images down here. And give it to generative AI and I run that. Then the prompt, how to do it, the steps I will follow, I've already converted that here already. I've already followed these steps 1 to 4. I've already done that, translated technical keywords and so on. So I'll run that in the order Copilot. Let's start with looking at board update, platform outage, incident as overview, customer, current. So what you have in here, it's some selected version of the information that you've given to generative AI. There's not, because in the prompt you said write an update based on the image. And so what's happened here, choose to start with the customer impact, current status, and they've given you updates in this area that it thinks are the most necessary in terms of updating. And this is come from its intelligence from the internet and other prompts that it's worked with before. But the problem with that is it might not be useful to you. It might be useful to some, but not everyone. Because when you give it your own personal prompt, your own sort of expert prompt, you see it uses the bottom line upfront approach, the BLUF format. So here, generative AI does this, but then it gives you everything that you need specifically. All you have to do is to delete this. How long does that take just to delete it? And something like that, bottom line upfront. So these are the basic editing that you do, and maybe some other editing. Because of the prompt that you've given here from that meeting, you can see it wouldn't take up to 10% of editing here, because it's giving you what you asked for. If you look at the prompt down here, executive summary, what to use, the tone, the status, resolution, path to resolution. That's what is done. Quick summary, current status, path to resolution. With a path to resolution, you might have to edit it, but it won't take much time. So this one here is just telling you what it did. You see. So basically, again, with the right prompt, you have the right output ready to go. You don't need too much work to do with it. So it pays to take time when you're doing the prompting. And the more you prompt your generative, the more it learns, because you're training it as you go. That's something you need to understand. And then if you do repetitive tasks, if you create a proposal all the time, get a template that you use. Get your prompt template and a template document of a proposal. So you get both. You get a prompt template and a document. And you upload that document. Once you upload it to your generative AI, depends on what subscription you have. You already have that. In the future, just say use document XYZ and move the prompt. You just edit it and that's it. And that's how it works. But thank you very much for staying to the end of this session. And I'll see you in the next session. Have a good day. Thank you.